को जो अक्ल दे खुदा तेरी गली से जाए क्यों। यादें हुजूर की कसम गफलत ऐश है सितम। यादें हुजूर की कसम गफलत ऐश है सितम। खूब है कैद गम में हम, खूब है कैद गम में हम, कोई हमें छुड़ाए क्यों।
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of News in Focus live on Radio Al-Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Marsburg 105.6 FM, and audio streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba bikum. My name is YUNUS, SACOOR, and I will be co-hosting the show with Sister Sumaya Khan, and we will be in your company for the next 1.5 hours. Before the Salah break, we were addressed live by Sheikh Salman Frederick. He's an alim attorney and UQSA member, and he was chatting to us about the state of the South African Ummah Address 2026. It's nice to be back after a 2-week break whilst I was in Baytullah. Shukran to Sumaya for hosting the show in the last 2 weeks. And when you hear this nasheed that was being played, and when we were in the Roza Mubarak with Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, the emotions in terms of meeting Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam live in Madinah was an exceptional experience. So alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take everybody to Makkatul Mukarramah and Madinatul Munawwara for Umrah, and the Hajj season will be approaching after Ramadan. Inshallah, those that made intention, Allah make it easy for them to attend. I have quite a packed show for this evening, and we know that next week the Mubarak month of Ramadan commences, and during the month of Ramadan, because of all the programs, News in Focus will be suspended for a month and will recommence after Ramadan. So tonight is a very important show. The date is 11th of Feb 2026 to 23rd of Shaban al-Muazzam 1447, approximately 7 days away from the Mubarak month of Ramadan. We have some very interesting topics for this evening. We're going to chat briefly about the state of the SONA address tomorrow and some potential comments that we expect the state president to make tomorrow. We will also be chatting about the ongoing water and electricity outages that's causing major problems throughout different wards in the eThekwini municipality. We will also be listening some advices for the month of Ramadan. Maulana Vanka will be live with us around about 9:10. He will chat to us briefly about the number of masjids and Jamaat Khanas are coming up throughout the eThekwini area, and in particular Tarawih that will be taking place. The guest this evening, Maulana Vanka, he will be telephonically with us after the news break. We also will be joined by Hassan Butala, our asset manager, who will chat to us about the reaction economic indicators as a result of the SONA speech and the present situation in South Africa. Abdul Falodia, the chairman of ORA, president of United for Palestine, he's been busy in the last couple of months sorting out the water and electricity outages in Ward 31. With him, we also joined by Councillor Muhammad Ismail, Secretary General of Active Citizens Coalition. He's been active with dealing with all these water and electricity outages. And Shaista Ghafoor, she's a community activist. She's done a lot of good work in this ward, ensuring that those outages that are taking place, they're reported timelessly, and at the end of the day, action is taken. We also have Dr. Muhammad Hussein Suleiman. He's a medical intern, Department of Health, a member of United for Palestine. He's also actively involved in medical issues. He'll be giving us some important tips how to handle ourselves medically during the month of Ramadan. But before I introduce all of them, I'd like to welcome my co-host who's ran the show for a couple of weeks exceptionally well, Sister Sumaya Khan. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome again to News in Focus.
Wa alaikum salam, brother Yunus. It's glad to have you back.
Well, it's a pleasure. Let me introduce my other guests this evening. Abdul Valudia, Chairman of ORA. Abdul, you've done some exceptional work. I've been reading all these group chats and your report on the state of, the service delivery in this ward and indeed other wards. Welcome to News in Focus, and thank you for doing all the hard work in this particular ward.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back, Yunus. It's good to have you, live with us in studio. And I hope you made a lot of dua for us and the community of Greater Overport. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all your ibadat and duas.
Alhamdulillah. Dr. Muhammad Hussein Sulaiman is always one of our good guests here, a young intern medical doctor doing a lot of good work, not only on the Palestinian issue, but also a lot of good work amongst the youth. Dr. Muhammad, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus Live on Radio Al Ansar International.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah so much for extending an invite. And of course, welcome back from a very spiritual trip. And of course, I look forward to the conversations that we'll have tonight. We have it's a diverse panel, and I'm sure there'll be great insights that will be shared for the listeners, to absorb.
Yes, just before Ramzan, we have a program full of action, and tonight, inshallah, it'll be one vibrant program, and I'm sure our listeners will benefit because they want to know what are the solutions to our problems. I'd like to welcome Councillor Muhammad Ismail, Secretary General of Active Citizens Coalition, and also a hard worker in this particular ward and a community activist. Muhammad Ismail, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome after a long layoff.
Yeah, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. That's a flowery introduction. Jazakallah for having me here again. I do appreciate it. And let's get talking.
It's a pleasure. And then last but not least, Shaista Ghafoor, she's a community activist in Ward 31. And I see her name being posted in a lot of group chats. When the community are having problems, they link up with you, and you're on the ball with the various departments in the municipality to ensure that you have a case number reported or a fault details. And Shaista, welcome to News in Focus.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shukran for having us on the show.
It's a pleasure. I want to commence our discussion just before the news break, which is another 10 minutes, with Dr. Muhammad Hussein Sulaiman. Muhammad Hussein, you would have heard Sheikh Salman Fredericks from UXA chatting about the state of the South African Ummah. And he says that we must not forget about our role as Muslims in the political arena as it relates to issues affecting South Africa. Now, I know we are sensitive of what's happening globally. And when you go abroad and you meet people and you go into UAE, you go to Saudi Arabia, their stance on Palestine is somewhat different from those that are active against the atrocities that are taking place there. But what happens in South Africa, we also have to prioritize. So what Sheikh has been stating is that, we must contribute towards activism in South Africa. So from your perspective as a young doctor representing the youth, perhaps you just want to comment and make some, pertinent comments relating to his speech, but at the same time, reminding our listeners that the youth have got a very important role to play. And Asumia does a program on Friday covering that part from the youth's perspective, being a medical practitioner. What is your take on the brief address given by Sheikh Salman Frederick?
Well, I think it's an important issue. And I think when it comes to the wars that are happening, especially with the Palestinians, it needs more of a political approach, because peace can only be achieved through an exchange, through a dialogue. And I think that as the country, we are playing our part by supporting the Palestinians, by going to the ICJ. Yes, of course, we can give aid through various other means. Just yesterday, there was a group of young people that were led by an alim that have actually went to Syria, that are intending to give aid. And there are various organizations and these NGOs that are contributing, they're on the ground active. So I think we are doing our part, and more so, youth need to be vocal. They need to come out, speak, and to voice their opinion. Yes, the issue dates back to the 19th century, but is now escalating, since October 2023. And I just think we need to always be talking about it, to be creating these awareness campaigns, etc. So we are doing a lot. We still have a lot to do, and let's not lose the momentum, because as a country we are doing, I think, wonderful. We have seen the global stage, all focus, all eyes were on South Africa. So I think with that momentum, let's keep going. I think in the end and ultimately we will find peace. We will find a solution to this long-time war.
I want to bring in Councillor Ismail. When you go into the rest of the world and you compare the situation there with South Africa, particularly the challenges in Palestine where there's no water, food is a major problem, buildings are demolished, and we're grappling with our challenges in South Africa. Yet when you travel abroad and you come back, you realize we're still pretty well off. Now, I know that in our local municipalities, there's a lot of challenges. I know tomorrow the state president is going to talk about SONA, and a lot of positives and negatives are going to come out. As a politician, from your perspective, how do you report in our situation in South Africa comparative to other parts of the world?
We are a diverse nation when it comes to wealth and diversity. A population that has extreme wealth and a population that is wallowing in poverty. And that's where we are right now. The current government has made promises over the last few years and decades, but how much of it has filtered down into the communities? If you look in our own little community here in Overport, for example, people are still languishing in poverty. We have food security issues, education issues, and compared to the rest of the world, there are countries that are fairly well off where they're giving communities free education. I mean, if you're looking at places like Denmark and those that are so advanced when it comes to the structure and infrastructure, that there's no comparison. And we have wallowed and we have been swallowed by corruption that has not given us those opportunities to move forward. I just look at recently, we were talking about this. I just want to digress a little bit. We spoke about Palestine, and people are languishing. They've got no food, no electricity, and here we have a power outage for 4 days, and we go into Sakrat. It's a shame. It's a shame, and that is a lesson that needs to be learned, because we're on at the eve of Ramadan. The doors open, the doors of mercy. But what lesson should we take from here? We've had a power outage for 4 days, 5 days. We cried about food going off when people are starving. So we are a community of haves. We don't appreciate anything. So what is the lesson that we need to take from that power outage? What is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us? Don't plan, because I'm a better planner than you. So we need to learn how to deal with these issues, because there's infrastructural problems. And whatever, I don't know what Ramaphosa is going to say tomorrow, because whatever Ramaphosa says is window dressing as far as I'm concerned, because you don't see the benefits of it coming through to people, and they try year in and year out to improve their lives. Railroads finished, police stations are finished, civic organizations are struggling to better the lives of people. We don't even have good community halls where activities are taking place. So what's really going on? We are, years ago I did an interview in 1994 with other late politicians like Ram Suluji and everything else. I asked them about affirmative action. I asked them about apartheid in reverse. And I said, if those things happen, we will take care of it. But here we are in apartheid in reverse. So what are we benefiting from? And in which direction are we heading? There has to be some change in government coming the next elections.
Most certainly. We'll chat on what we project. Ramaphosa chatting tomorrow. Sumia, I want to bring you in briefly. You are the chair lady of United for Palestine, and I think Councillor Ismail made a very pertinent point that we're battling with electricity and water outages, and it's a concern for us. But what's happening in other parts of the world, we have to be mindful that we're not as bad as those countries, particularly Palestine. You perhaps for 2 minutes before the news break want to give us a brief comment from United for Palestine point of view on the concern about the Palestinian struggle vis-a-vis what's happening in South Africa?
Well, when you read all the press, everyone talks about a ceasefire and there's change taking place, but that's only on media. The truth, the reality is not much, or I would say nothing has changed. There are still children who are being killed. There's still bombings. There's still land invasions. So is the ceasefire just a way to calm you down and say, no, we're going to sort it out? No, nothing is sorted out. And it's quite bad. Yes, in South Africa, with all that we are going through, you know, with our service delivery, with every, as Brother Ismail mentioned, every section, every department from government is crippled, or it's shut down, or it's closed, not functioning. But again, you know, it also makes us think, look at our fellow brothers and sisters in Gaza and Palestine. How do they live on a day-to-day basis? For children who are still surviving, who are like over 3 years, they know nothing better. That's the only world they know, where they're scrounging, looking for food, looking for shelter, where there's family members missing. But I might sound a bit harsh and cruel here, but again, come back home. We are aware, but is that an excuse for us to let our service deliveries continue to decay and rot? And should we accept the fact that, as earlier on, Sister Shaista and I were talking off air, I was telling her my eyesight is so bad without my glasses, and she told me, same with her. But again, when she's driving, she knows every single pothole. So should we all be driving like Sister Shaista, where we should accept the fact, I mean, even though she does so much of work, even though she works full time, that our service delivery is gone? Should we accept the fact that in the middle of, let's give you an example, West Road, Parks Road, there's a stick? No, we know we need to avoid that. In our communities around Overport, Sydenham, Asherville, Musgrave, Sherwood, there has been on and off no electricity. It's not load shedding, but something is happening and going on someplace. Should we accept the fact there? Should we accept the fact, I know for the common housewife who's listening right now, who's not a politician, should we accept the fact that all our savings for Ramadan is gone down the drain? So should we accept all of this at home? Or should we make a change? As you know, our municipality elections are coming up. But again, we are Muslims. It's part of our religion, part of our deen, to have sabr, to make dua, and want positive change, not only for our Muslim brothers and sisters here in South Africa, but across the world, of different races and cultures. But inshallah, we do need, I mean, nothing tells us that if we can, we shouldn't live the best lives that we have here.
Shukran, Sumaya. That was just a bit of a refresher before we start our subject for discussion. After the news break, where we're going to go into details on ongoing water and electricity outages, causes and solutions, we're also going to look on some of the projections for SONA that we expect the state president to make. Are these just promises? And we're going to chat briefly about some advices for the month of Ramadan. So we take a news break, and inshallah, we'll continue after the news break.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with YUNUS SACOOR. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday, Radio Al Ansar, keeping you informed.
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Al Ansar News.
Making news this hour, the 11th of February, the news from Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM. KwaZulu-Natal private security company suspends officers accused of assaulting homeless man, American Monina. Private security company says the officers accused of assaulting a man said to be homeless have been suspended. A video showing the December incident in the Durban CBD has sparked outrage. The CCTV footage shared on social media by the Dennis Hurley Center shows several men in branded jackets assaulting the individual who appears to be restrained. Local security company spokesperson Kalfan Renin says the conduct is a direct violation of the company's standards and protocols. Renin says the company takes the allegations very seriously. However, Renan says that the company is disappointed that a video was published before they were given an opportunity to conclude the investigation. The security company in question also claims the man was not a homeless person, but a known criminal allegedly linked to vehicle parts and copper theft. But Dennis Hurley Center Director Raymond Pereira disputes that. He says, for weeks, homeless patients have arrived at their clinic with injuries consistent with beatings allegedly linked to private security personnel. Pereira says they are yet to locate the man seen in the video. More news, the death toll from recent lightning strikes in KwaZulu-Natal has risen to 3. The latest victim is 66-year-old Shonapi Pigisile Mhlongo, who was killed in Springville near Ikopo today. The other 2 victims died in the same region on Saturday. KwaZulu-Natal Cooperative Governance says the weekend storms damaged homes and structures, affecting more than 126 households and over 460 people. The department spokesperson Senzelo Mzila says the provincial disaster management teams are providing support to those affected. Meanwhile, the South African Weather Service has issued a yellow level 4 warning for more severe thunderstorms expected in the interior of KwaZulu-Natal tomorrow. More news, local media says this year's State of the Nation address is expected to cost just over 7 million rands. Tomorrow, President Ramaphosa will outline the government's plans for the year. The event will also once again be held at Cape Town City Hall, the venue used since a fire gutted the National Assembly chamber in 2022. Local media says hosting soda outside Parliament has contributed to increased costs over the past few years. Secretary to Parliament Olile George says the main cost drivers are the hiring of broadcasting equipment. More news now. KwaZulu-Natal Education has confirmed a probe into exam irregularities in the Zwelinjane Secondary School in Ekabeni in Pinetown. Education Department spokesperson Muzi Mahlambi says there has been unhappiness after some matric results were withheld. Mahlambi says their probe began at the marking center and involves teams from their provincial and national offices. Mahlambi says they have notified the affected learners and are looking into other incidents that were reported. Finally, international story, Iranians have marked the anniversary of the Islamic Revolution with nationwide rallies in their millions, sending a strong message of allegiance to the ideals of the late Imam Khomeini, who upended the US-backed monarchy 47 years ago. Huge crowds poured into Tehran's main squares and into public spaces across roughly 1,400 cities and towns, braving the weather in a display of national unity amid provocations and threats by the US and Israeli governments in recent weeks. Report says the crowds chanted slogans in unison, condemning decades of crimes perpetrated by the US against the Iranian nation as well as the Israeli regime's atrocities. Your weather. Tonight, it's 28 degrees. A quick reminder of our top story. Private security company says the officers accused of assaulting a man said to be homeless have been suspended. A video showing the December incident in the Durban CBD has sparked outrage. That's the news.
This segment is brought to you by Kenfield Auto, your RMI approved service and repair specialist. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Kenfield Auto.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم.
Car won't start.
Kenfield Auto.
Noisy brakes.
Kenfield Auto.
Due for a service.
Kenfield Auto. Kenfield Auto, the answer to all your car problems. Your service and repair specialist for your VW, Audi, Suzuki, Toyota, or just about any vehicle. Kenfield Auto, your RMI and insurance approved workshop. Follow the red and white board in the passage at 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Call Shafi on 031 207 2399. Kenfield Auto.
In a world divided by crisis and detachment, let Ramadan reconnect us. Join Africa Muslims Agency to feed the fasting across the world. Donate towards an iftar box for 140 Rand, a monthly food hamper for 1,900 Rand, or feed a community for 20,000 Rand per day. From Gaza to Mozambique to Syria and more, every meal creates a connection between human hearts and the divine. This Ramadan, nourish bodies and reconnect souls with Africa Muslims Agency.
Hungry for a deal that hits the spot? Get the top duo deal. 2 large margarita pizzas plus 1 topping each for $1.99. Or go big or go home with the Bellissima duo deal. 2 large Bellissima pizzas for $2.69. Pure flavor perfection. And that's not all. The snack box combos are here. Your pizza boy's favorite pack to the ultimate munch box. Don't forget our daily lunch specials. Delicious, quick, and wallet friendly. Only at Pizza Boys. Taste that hits different. Pizza Boys, bring your va-va boom to your slice of life. Find your nearest Pizza Boys near you. Pizza Boys, we don't cut corners.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Petermarisburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with YUNUS SACOOR. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Radio Al Ansar, keeping you informed.
تنہا ہوں میں اور امتحان لاکھوں تنے ہیں سامنے بیٹھا ہوں میں مایوس کن آئے نہ کوئی مجھے تھامنے اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا ونعم الوکیل حسبنا ونعم الوکیل حسبنا ونعم الوکیل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا ونعم الوکیل حسبنا ونعم الوکیل حسبنا ونعم الوکیل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا ونعم الوکیل نعم المولى ونعم النصير مایوب ہوں تیرا کرم پردہ رکھا عزت بھی دی بڑھ کے دیا اوقات سے دولت بھی طاقت بھی اور وقت بھی کر دے خطا ہر معاف تو فہرست اسیاں کو چھوڑ دے اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا ونعم الوکیل حسبنا ونعم الوکیل حسبنا ونعم الوکیل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا ونعم الوکیل حسبنا ونعم الوکیل حسبنا ونعم الوکیل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا ونعم الوکیل نعم المولى ونعم النصير رنگینیوں خود غرضیوں میں ہے گزاری یہ عمر ہے آرزو بس ایک یہی کر دوں تیرے نام شام و سحر تسکین دل حاصل کروں رخ اپنی جانب تو موڑ دے اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا ونعم الوکیل حسبنا ونعم الوکیل حسبنا ونعم الوکیل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا ونعم الوکیل حسبنا ونعم الوکیل حسبنا ونعم الوکیل.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Petermarisburg 105.6 FM, and audio streaming on www.alansar.org. Before the news break, we were chatting briefly with Sheikh Salman Fredericks, who was giving us an update on the state of the South African Ummah Address 2026, which obviously is a precursor to SONA that's taking place tomorrow. We know that we are a week away from the Mubarak month of Ramadan, and we were also chatting with some of our guests on the situation in South Africa vis-a-vis what's happening in other parts of the world, including Palestine. And later on in the program, we're gonna chat about our state of service delivery. But I have live on the line with me Maulana Muhammad Vanga. Maulana, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother Yunus, and assalamu alaikum to the esteemed listeners of Radio Al Ansar. Barakallahu fikum, jazakallahu khairan for the opportunity.
Maulana, I know you've got a very busy schedule ahead of you. You'll be in the UK from the 1st to the 10th of Ramadan. But whilst you are in South Africa, you're doing a lot of excellent work on behalf of the An-Nur Foundation. And tomorrow you've got the official opening of Masjid Bilal ibn Rabah, which is taking place in Buria. You've converted a church to a masjid. And on Saturday, you're doing an official opening of a Jamaat Khana in Westwood Mall. Perhaps you can enlighten us on the name. But I know as Al Ansar Foundation, the owner of Westwood Mall approached Al Ansar Foundation, and alhamdulillah, with your efforts and the organizations you're working with, you were able to mobilize and get that Jamaat Khana ready so that people who go to the mall during the Mubarak month of Ramadan will benefit from performing the Salah and 5 times Salah in that vicinity. So perhaps you want to give us just a bit of an outline of the kind of work that the An-Nur Foundation is doing to ensure that Salah facilities are being provided wherever there are opportunities, Maulana.
Barakallahu feekum, Brother Yunus. Jazakallahu khairan for the opportunity. So alhamdulillah, with the grace of the Almighty Allah, as you all very well know, we in the north of Durban, at that time, there were very few Muslims that were living 25 years ago. And there was one masjid, which is very close to Gateway. And when I came into the area 20 years ago, we then realized that the area is growing, the dynamics are now changing in terms of, people moving into the north of Durban. This is a trend, globally, where everything happens to move north. So similarly, here in the greater Umhlanga, Durban North, Umhlanga, precinct, the Gateway New Town Center, there were many Muslims that were moving into these apartments. Hence, the need arose, to establish additional Salah facilities, to make these facilities accessible to, to people's homes and people living in these apartments. So, alhamdulillah, with the grace of the Almighty Allah, the first musalla that we established after the Umhlanga Masjid was the Gateway Musalla, which is many people frequent that musalla. There are hundreds, if not thousands, that utilize that facility on a monthly basis. And thereafter, subsequently, we had established various other musallas. But I must place on record that these musallas and these masajid are not there in competition with each other, but rather they are there to complement each other. They are rather there to complement each other. They have masajid, musallas. Every other street you would find a beautiful masjid or you would find a musalla. There is no excuse for us, to be missing our salah. You would find that the times of salah are staggered. So, I just thought I'll just make mention. Normally when people think about, I'll just speak out very quickly. So we always had this vision in mind. Over the years involved in the community, and we had seen how masajids operate. It's a system that we had adopted, we had implemented, and Allah Ta'ala reward, those who have established these masajid. We look at, the Grey Street Masjid, the West Street Masjid, and various other masajid, the Queen's Rest Masjid, the Queensbridge Masjid. These were masajid that were established back in the day. These were visionaries. They had a foresight. So the question, like I always say, in many of my talks, I mentioned this, is that not every one of us can do great things, but we all can do simple things in a great way. Allah Ta'ala then inspired us, with the grace of the Almighty Allah. I always say it's the grace of Allah. It's the du'as of our teachers and our friends and associates, that assist us. It's not about me or I, but rather it's about us. what can we do? What can we not? What can I do? What can we do as the broader? I'll speak about the Westwood Mall Musalla, Allah Ta'ala reward, and I'll just mention what was the catalyst for that. So, mashallah, so various musallas were established in the greater Amshlanga area. And thereafter, perhaps, we will speak about it, in many of the rural areas. There were masajid, there was a masjid, and various musallas were established, in the outlying areas of Durban. This particular area where this masjid, the opening would be taking place tomorrow, Masjid Bilal ibn Rabah, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, which used to be a church. And they, again, this is only from the side of the Almighty Allah. There's a brother who had informed us that there's a church that is up for sale, and we had approached them, we had negotiated, we settled on a price, and this was last year, and we started the renovations, and inshallah tomorrow, we would be opening the masjid. We deliberated over the name of the masjid, and various different names. And after much consideration and mashara and deliberation, we eventually decided that we will name this masjid Masjid Bilal ibn Rabah. After who? The first muazzin of Islam. The first muazzin, we all know. I don't want to mince my words. We all know how muazzins are treated today. What did my Nabi say? That they will stand up. They will stand tall on the day of Qiyamah. Allahu Akbar. The first man to be given the privilege to stand on top of the Kaaba and call out the adhan was who? Sayyidina Bilal ibn Rabah. When Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam migrated to Madinatul Munawwara, Sayyidina Bilal that called out the adhan. When Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu wa arda conquered Baytul Muqaddas and Jerusalem, who had called out the adhan? When the galaxy of Sahaba had gathered under the leadership of Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu wa arda, it was Sayyidina Bilal ibn Rabah, the muazzin of the three most significant historical masajid in Islam. Sayyidina Bilal ibn Rabah, I had the good fortune of, visiting his blessed grave, in Babu Saghir in Damascus, where two of the muazzins of Islam are lying side by side, Sayyidina Bilal ibn Rabah and Abdullah bin Maktoum, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. I mean, how much do we know about this great Sahabi? It's very important. It's extremely important that we need to give our masajid and musallas some identity. And there should be some deeper meaning, when we are naming these facilities. So hence we've named this particular masjid, Masjid Bilal ibn Rabah, after the great Sahabi, the first muazzin of Islam, Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu, with this intention that we can take lessons from his life, the persecution, the torture that he underwent. Despite that, he stood up and he declared Ahad, Ahad, the one Allah, the one Allah, the one Allah. And the other reason, Islam is a religion which brings about, which has taught us justice, fairness, and equality. Islam does not look at your color. It does not look at your race. Those that are serving in our masajid, for years on end, they're calling us 5 times a day to the masjid, whether it's Ramadan, whether it's Sunday, whether it's Saturday, how many of them how they are treated. It's about time that we afford them that respect, we afford them that dignity. So hence we named this masjid, Masjid Bilal ibn Rabah. Inshallah, the official opening of the masjid would be taking place tomorrow, Thursday, at Salatul Maghrib. And we've got an excellent lineup. And, amongst the speakers, the keynote address would be none other than the world-renowned Mufti Suleiman Mullah, from Johannesburg. Inshallah, he's coming down for this program. And, he would deliver a address. The program would take place between Maghrib and Salatul Isha. So the location of this masjid, it is in the Beria area, number 16 JB Marks, which is very close to the St. Augustine's Hospital, literally a stone's throw away on the same road. When a person is driving out of Durban, just before you get to the toll gate bridge, you take the left turn, and it's the third building on the right. So we've named this masjid, Masjid Bilal ibn Rabah. Inshallah, the program will be taking place tomorrow. The first salah, a place where once upon a time used to be a church. Today, inshallah, from tomorrow, the name of Allah would be raised. We've seen this. I've traveled to many countries across the globe. There are many, many churches that have now been converted into masajid. Our masjid here in Lalusha, Masjid al-Fatah. This also used to be a church. And with the grace of the Almighty Allah, alhamdulillah, it's a beautiful Islamic center. And the idea, of these masajid, like I said, I've seen it in other parts of the world. We need to transform our masajid into an environment of da'wah. Let us showcase Islam to the broader community. Let us showcase Islam. It's important to create an environment of spirituality within every area that we are living in. Alhamdulillah. So, the day after, inshallah, on Saturday at Salatul Asr, we will be opening the new Musalla at the Westwood Mall. So a few months back, when one of the stores, had opened up at the Westwood Mall, I was invited to do the dua, the opening dua at the opening of the store at the Westwood Mall. And on the way to the Westwood Mall, mashallah, brother YUNUS SACOOR, I had spoken to him, and he had mentioned that the owner of the mall has identified a space which is close to Checkers, and for a musalla. So alhamdulillah, we met with the owner and we met with brother Riyaz, and alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala reward you, brother Yunus. It was inshallah, every person that performs salah there, you and your team, Allah Ta'ala will grant you all the reward, because you all planted that seed, and we had just taken it to we brought it to a point of fruition, alhamdulillah. So we have just laid the carpets, and inshallah on Saturday, this week Saturday, would be the opening of the Westwood Mall Musalla, which is 3 doors away from Checkers. Right next to Checkers is the men's entrance, and 3 doors away is the entrance for the for our sisters, the masjid in Baria as well, inshallah. The sisters musalla would be opened from Saturday. There would be a program taking place on Saturday for the sisters between 2 to 3 p.m. And the sisters are encouraged, inshallah, if you can, if you're in the area. One of our we have appointed Maulana Junaid Karsani, who is also a frequent presenter on Radio Ansar and other radio stations. Inshallah, he would oversee the masjid. So the idea of just coming to the Westwood Mall Musalla would open on Saturday. Inshallah, Salatul Asr would be performed at 5:45, inshallah. There will be a program taking place between Salatul Asr and Maghrib, and some refreshments would be served after Salatul Maghrib. That's on Saturday. Tomorrow, after the program at Masjid Bilal ibn Rabah, there would be meals that would be provided as well. So with regards to the An-Nur Foundation, this was always our vision, to try and create opportunities for our youth. Let us get them involved in the structures of our masajid and our musallas, so they could feel part of the community. Back in the day, what used to happen, a person will enter into a position of authority, and he would remain in that position until he drops dead. So Allah Ta'ala, after much deliberation and discussion and mashura, alhamdulillah, with the grace of the Almighty Allah, Allah Ta'ala put this thought into our heart that we establish, the An-Nur Foundation, primarily with this intention that we bring in our youth. Let us bring them into positions of leadership. We guide them and let them let them contribute to our facilities, to pass on the baton, to keep the momentum going. What legacy are we leaving behind? What's the succession plan? Like Maulana the Umarji rahmatullahi alayhi used to always say, he used to say, a Muslim business, very rarely it lasts more than 4 generations. Why? There's no succession planning. So, similarly, we need to empower our youth. Let us bring them in. Let us, inshallah, many of them have great talent. We established the An-Nur Foundation in 2025, a few months ago. And I can say, I swear by the Almighty Allah, we are grateful to the Almighty Allah that this organization has grown in leaps and bounds. We have an amazing group of youngsters at all the facilities, that now manage the maintenance of these facilities, the Jummah speakers, the Salah times, and it's a sense of belonging for them. And mashallah, there are meetings that take place in a structured way. Many of our youngsters have great ability, have great capability. And hence, after we have established this An-Nur Foundation, there are many, many brothers from other parts of the country and other parts of the world, who have reached out to us, wherein, we've got a model in place, and we have taken this model and we've tried to implement it across all the facilities, that Allah Ta'ala has allowed us to be involved in, alhamdulillah. So the An-Nur Foundation was established last year, and we make dua to the Almighty Allah. Allah Ta'ala grant us sincerity. Allah Ta'ala continue to use us to serve this beautiful deen. Allah use us and do not replace us. The idea is not, the focus should not be on one individual. that me and I have done this and I have achieved that. It's not about me, but it's about the broader community. Let us stand up together. As a community, we have great potential in our masajid. We have great potential in our institutions. Let us, inshallah, create opportunities for our youth. Create opportunities for our youth. What legacy are we leaving behind? What legacy? We will be dead and gone. After you die, no matter how popular you may be, wallahi, it is only the good that you had done whilst you were alive that people will remember you. Otherwise, you would be history. You would be forgotten. There may be thousands of people at your janazah, but go the next morning to the gravesite. There's absolutely no one. People are searching and looking for, popularity in this world. Wallahi, we need to constantly remind ourselves, Man tawada'a lillahi rafa'ahu Allah. Allah Ta'ala keep us humble. That person will humble himself. Allah will elevate him to the sky. And that person who will display pride, Allah Ta'ala will drop him beneath the earth. So we just make dua, Allah Ta'ala continue to use us, inshallah, to serve this beautiful deen. So once again, inshallah, the masjid in Baria would be opening tomorrow. The official opening would take place tomorrow at Salatul Maghrib, 16 JB Marks in Baria. And inshallah, on Saturday, the opening of the Westwood Mall Musalla, next to Checkers, would take place on Saturday. Inshallah, we look forward to extend an invite to the listeners, to attend. So tomorrow, inshallah, the ladies' facility, there's still some work. So from Saturday, the ladies' facility will be operational at Masjid Bilal ibn Rabah. And inshallah, once we open the facility at the Westwood Mall, there's no excuse for us to miss our salah. So inshallah, Salatul Jummah will be taking place there. Salatul Taraweeh, we got a group of fathers that will be performing the Salatul Taraweeh, for the blessed, during the blessed month of Ramadan. And like we had mentioned, Jummah programs will also take place, at the Musalla, inshallah.
Shukran, Maulana Muhammad Vanke, for updating us on the excellent work that the An-Nur Foundation is doing. Not only these musallas and masjids, but also many others. I know in the airport, that facility is being used by thousands of people before they go for Umrah and Hajj. And I know the very important point you made is that our youth must get involved in these initiatives. And inshallah, if our youth are interested, please contact our officers here. We'll give you the link to Maulana Muhammad Vanke and the committee of An-Nur Foundation. And we encourage the youth to get involved. And inshallah, we do have programs for the youth. We'll announce it there as well. Maulana, shukran for joining us and giving us some very valuable information, and do continue with the good work. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the hidayah to continue with this work of dawah so that we benefit not only in this world but in the akhirat. Assalamu alaikum.
Barakallah. Barakallah fikum, Brother Yunus, for creating this platform, inshallah. So we look forward to meeting the listeners, inshallah.
Inshallah. We'll be there, inshallah, for the opening. Jazakallah Mufti Maulana, and inshallah, we'll meet again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That was Maulana Muhammad Vanke, one of the senior members of the An-Nur Foundation, involved in various musallas, masjids throughout the country. And he will be going to the UK from the 1st to the 10th of Ramadan. He will be giving a series of lectures in the UK. So he's extremely busy during the Hajj period. He goes to Saudi Arabia, takes groups of people, teaches them Nasiya, etc. So let's continue with our program going forward. I want to bring in Shaista Ghafoor. Shaista, we're hearing a lot about, in the past there was load shedding, and that was something of the past. But there is different types of electricity outages that's going on, and some people are questioning in the various groups, is this load shedding again? Then we also have water shedding people are talking about, where some areas people are saying that water gets cut in the evening and only come back in the morning. Is this part of water shedding, or is that water rationing? Now, when I see these messages coming up in the various group chats, they're being directed at you, Abdul Falodia, Councillor Ismail, and you're all supposed to be civic representatives. The council of the area is fairly quiet, but I noticed you'll register fault numbers with the requisite departments in the municipality, and you'll monitor it and follow up. So perhaps you just want to give us a brief, report on exactly how bad is the water and electricity outages that are taking place in the various wards, Shaista?
Okay, so currently across various wards, whether it's Clear Estate, our Ward 31, Bonella, it's constantly, daily you are hearing of outages. And it's normally some cable fault or a fuse blowing. But in particular, this weekend that passed, Overport was hit horribly. Lodge Grove, they had a problem. Okay, that was on a Friday. They were switched off, and by the time the cable department, and you must know, once it's over, it's after hours, and the weekends they have a standby team. So you got one team trying to service most of the city. So these guys had to wait. We managed to get the guys in. That was like 2 days later, they just managed to restore, change the transformer. And then there was an outage from Windermere right up to Overport. So they were like, everybody was off. And what happened there was they couldn't restore them all. 70% of the guys were restored and the 30% they couldn't restore. So when we had a previous fault, they had given them alternate power. So now when there was this issue, that alternate power was now the one that went off. So there was nothing else to give them. So they now had to fault find. And then finally, they found the fault on Venice Road. By the time the teams could get there was 4 days later. So Lodge Grove, Mead Lane, Holmford, and some other roads were all off for 4 days already. And the rest of the guys were off for more than 24 hours. So we managed to get the electricians, follow them up. Abdul was there, myself, and we managed to get them restored. I think the people were most grateful. And this was all caused by aging infrastructure. And obviously the heat that we have, played a role in it. And the initial fault was somewhere in Mayville. So the fault was in Mayville. They connected them to Kongela. And then when Kongela tripped, it tripped the switch, the substation right here at Jameson Park. And then there was a whole lot of other faults that followed. Nonetheless, the guys are restored now. For how long and when there's going to be another fault, that is another problem. The other areas, there's like constant outages. A lot of overloading happens near the Jondols and the other areas, and these guys are off again for 24 hours. We try and help them, try and speed up their stuff. With regards to the water outages, which is daily, I think for the last 2 weeks, every day between about 9 o'clock at night, and then the water is restored about 4 to 6 a.m. the next day. We've emailed to ask various times, like, what is happening? Why is this constantly? And this happens in Asheville, not the entire of Asheville. It's part of Asheville, part of Overport, and part of Clear Estate this happens to. And there's no answer. We will investigate, and I'm still waiting for them for about over a week now to get back to me on that. And then the notice came out from the municipality that now because of the heat, there's evaporation, and then there's algae in the system, and then the water coming into Wiggins is less, and there's a whole lot of stories that are now put out. What is actually the problem? We still don't know. We're still trying to get answers on that. And at present now, the guys have no water again. It's back to low pressure and no water, if you look at the groups. Clear Estate as well, same. Bonella, exact same problem. They obviously fed from a different reservoir, but Bonella has the same problem. They have water outages daily. There's one road in Bonella that goes off every day. They have no electricity at least twice a day. The electricity is put on, and then again it's off. So, and they have no answers for us as to why it is happening. They just tell you there's various faults, and that's it. So that is basically the gist of what is happening in our area. And to get answers from our representatives who's supposed to represent us, to the municipality, there's nothing. It's just we have reported and escalated. We don't know what is happening. No updates. We had to physically go on the ground now, go look for the electricians, try and get answers for everybody. I don't know if you know, Mr. SACOOR, Lotus Road had no water for 8 days. 8 days, including the school.
And there's a big school there.
It's a big school there. And then there was no municipality water tankers to come through. These guys were getting in private water tankers. This was the entire of Lotus Road. And so Al-Falah contacted me and said, what, can you help? So I contacted the WDO and I said, what's happening? She says, no, there's a burst pipe in Inanda. So I said, hold on, the burst pipe is just a few days now. These guys are off from way before that. And also that, if they were affected, various other roads, why is Lotus Road, one of the only roads? And I think they were quite shocked to hear that. And he says, okay, no, we're sending somebody. And they did. The next day, they sent somebody out. and they managed to find the fault. However, they don't want to tell me what the fault was. They don't want to tell me. They don't want to. It's maybe a valve that wasn't open after repairs or something simple, but they don't want to tell you because they don't want the fault to be on them. So they just ignored that part of the question when I asked. But nonetheless, after 8 days, Lotus Road has water.
Now, what is being articulated by Shaista is community activism that has to monitor the situation. And I want to bring you in, Councillor Ismail.
Yeah, I knew you were going to pick
Now,
me.
the reason why I want to bring you in, because before I went on a break, we were chatting about the reason why a eThekwini municipality is so slack. It's not because many of us retired. That is a fact also.
That's true.
But the quality of employees is cause for concern. Abdul Valodia put in a report on the cause of these problems, and we keep on talking about short infrastructure. The lack of maintenance thereof is cause for concern.
Absolutely.
And, you know, one of the politicians that came in and says that the eThekwini municipality has got the audacity of promoting people that have failed this municipality. In terms of water, the head water was promoted to executive director, and I think the DA councillor came in here and said they objected to that individual's appointment. Now we have a situation where there's favoritism in the appointment of personnel in the municipalities, and as Shaista is alluding to, that nobody had the sort of courage to come there. There's a huge school there. There's a lot of people that live in that area, and you're not ashamed of depriving them of water for 8 solid days. Now, I know it's far-fetched to talk about a change in leadership in government. During local government elections, we're going to lead up to that after Ramadan. But is it really lack of maintenance of infrastructure that is now beginning to malfunction and short? Or is it just lazy officials that are sitting on their laurels not doing any work? What is the problem, Councillor Ismail?
It's multifactorial, selective. So I will tell you, or I'll ask you, why, again, I think we've mentioned this before, areas like Amshlanga don't have these problems. Why communities like ours here experiencing these problems, water outages, okay, the electricity thing, cables blew, that was beyond anything that we could deal with. And why are we not getting the answers that we want? So they're hiding things. I would say they're victimizing communities, number one. Number two is the lack of leadership, skills. And are they interested or are they not interested? And just forget it's overport. Who cares? Who cares about Ward 21? Who cares about, Ward 25? Who cares about Ward 31? You don't get answers from heads of department. I emailed the head of electricity 3 days ago, asking him, please give me.
Is there an acting head there? Or
there's an acting head.
Yes.
They're all acting.
All acting.
They're actors.
There's more actors.
Magnificent municipal stage of actors. So
that just sit and do nothing.
Sit and do nothing. Respectfully, some of them do. And there was no response. I just checked my emails now while we're sitting here in the studio. There's still no response from the head of electricity. I wrote to the city manager in 2023. To date, I've had no response from him. We don't get responses that we need. Now, here comes community activists who do what they do to the best of their ability. They go beyond the call of duty. And we as councillors, we suddenly now relying on them because they now using contacts within contacts and getting the answers. And now here we're going to heads of department who's not giving us that. So it's a shame of how things are being, being conducted. Again, is this systematic targeting? This is the question that comes to mind. Is this systematic targeting? Because it goes back again. Why does Amshlanga not have these problems? Why here? Why would the mayor go and have a crime operation personally in Amshlanga? One person gets robbed, something happens, oh, big deal. And here, we are fraught with crime. People are getting hijacked, you're getting all of these issues. So again, it's systematic, and this is what they are doing. So, I really hope and make dua that there is some kind of change in management. There is going to be some kind of change in people who are in office, managers, executive directors, and whoever they are. And some of the older folk, and I mean like people with greater experience, should come in and start turning things on its head and fixing the infrastructure. Because, I mean, we can't always say ailing infrastructure. What was your plan of action? Where has this been? Where were your forecasts from years ago to say, okay, listen, the population explosion. Then you have the influx of informal settlements. You have hijacking of electricity, hijacking of water, all of these things. So we are a city that is falling apart at the seams, unfortunately. Hopefully there's going to be change. I don't know. Let's pray for it, inshallah.
Now, tomorrow is going to be the SONA. I want to bring Hassan in. One of the analysts are saying one big win, many hard failures. Ramaphosa State of Nation report card. The question they're raising is, how is President Ramaphosa doing? On Thursday evening, he will say, it's all good, some things are. The economy is looking up, there's growing confidence, energy reform stands out as a genuine success. These are some of the positives. But almost everything else, from water to municipalities to jobs, tells a story of stalled delivery and unrealized promises. South Africa's SA president has promised reform, professionalism, and renewal. Now, tomorrow he's going to chat about a whole lot of issues revolving around fixed local government service delivery. He's been harping on that fact. And what is being reported is far from that at the moment. He's going to talk about building a capable professional state. We don't know how far he's going to go with that. Then he's going to talk about massive infrastructure spending and financing. We know that most of the municipalities, the infrastructure is short. Do they have the funding to do that? Do they have the capabilities of sorting that out? Councillor Inspire mentioned the planning should have been done years ago. Why are they thinking of it now? And load shedding and reform the energy system. To an extent, that is a kind of a success, but the reform of the energy system, I mean, there's tariff increases taking place soon, but is the energy system reformed to stop all these outages? Resolve the national water crisis. Now, that is a major problem, and it's resulting in the kind of outages we're facing, etc. They're going to talk about the launching of a 20 billion, and that's where Hassan comes in, a year transformation fund, create jobs, especially for young people. Sumaya, you talk about the youth. Maulana Vanka says, get involved in voluntary projects, but also they need jobs, because otherwise they're going to get involved in various other vices. Strengthen social protection and income support, and then the national health insurance, because we know the condition of the hospitals. And Dr. Muhammad is here, and he'll tell you he's an intern in King Edward VIII Hospital, and he's also in Wentworth Hospital. He'll probably touch on it later in the program. But Hassan, I want to bring you in. What are the expectations for tomorrow's SONA speech? Do you think he's going to comment on all these things and make the promises but can't deliver? Or is he going to really walk the talk? Hassan?
Look, I think, going back to sort of 2019, he famously stated we had 9 wasted years under Zuma. That was one of, I think you remember back that time, and we had Ramaphosa that came after that, and it was
Zuma is still hanging around with MK making all promises.
But if you look at it, 2019 he came around, he said we had 9 wasted years. He's here. There's a lot that he's going to do. He's going to reform. Move from 2019 through to 2024, people say we've had now a decade and a half of more than wasted years. So while Zuma's years were really bad, but that downward trend, or that really tough trend, continued for a number of years, despite when Ramaphosa was initially brought in and the promises he made and the like, it didn't come through. However, this past year, there is a notable turnaround in the South African economy. There is a notable turnaround for the first time in 15 years. It's been a long time that we've seen this, but you are seeing and it's a mixture of various things. So he's going to touch on a couple of key positives, and he will touch on the negatives. The positives he's going to talk about is that South Africa was expected to have achieved during this past year growth of around 1.2, 1.3%, which is a lot better than, while it's still not great, but it's a lot better than what we have done. But very importantly, he's going to talk about that the country, in terms of various sectors, are starting to see momentum and growth, which we haven't seen in a long time. What are the drivers of it? Firstly, our mining sector is actually doing very well on the back of high commodity prices globally. So not necessarily because of our production has improved a lot tonight, but the fact that commodity prices, gold, platinum, palladium, those metals have moved up a hell of a lot, which is good for the country and is earning us a lot of income. What that has actually done is that if you look at our earnings from our mining resources, the trade surplus and the financial situation of our reserves has improved substantially. So South Africa has also foreign reserves, because when they earn money, they obviously accumulate it and they keep it. A few years back in 2019, our reserves were around $50 billion around the end of the Zuma era. Today, they're sitting close to $80 billion. It's highlighting that you're seeing our dollar reserves are picking up on the back of, and that's why you're seeing also some stability in the rand and also some strengthening in the rand on the back of our currencies. Our commodities are earning us fair amount of currency. At the same time, the cost of our oil has moved down, or fuel has declined quite significantly. You can look, how many of us filling up our car petrol can see what we're paying today. Just this past week, last week we had the decrease in the fuel price. What we're paying now for a tank relative to a year ago, relative to 2 years ago, it's declined substantially, and it's been on the back of oil prices coming up. So it's been a positive contributor to the economy. The other area he's going to touch on, so he's going to, a couple of key focuses is that the fact that parts of the economy are doing well, we're growing nicely, and it's booming on the back. Mining is doing well, tourism is doing well. Tourism, we had the highest number since pre-COVID in terms of arrivals in this country this past year. Cape Town had a record in December, I think ever, in terms of number of arrivals that have come in. KZN had a fantastic year this past year, December and January, relative to prior years. So you've seen also tourism is booming, and it's on the back of, obviously now South Africa is becoming attractive. The other highlight he's going to talk about is that in the financial sector, South Africa is now off the grey list, or the FATF list, with the Financial Action Task Force, with the grey list. The grey list effectively was, we were put in this list because of, they were talking about that we were accused of money laundering and financing terrorism and those type of things within our institutions. After 2-3 years of hard work by the Treasury and the banking sector and other players in the industry in the country, we are now off that list. What that means is that investors globally have more confidence in this country, and they're now prepared to put more money into the country and deal with South Africa. Just this past week, a Saudi group that spent over 25 billion rands has taken over Barloworld. That has happened. You're going to get more of that happening over the next few years, as foreign companies are now looking at South Africa as an attractive destination to build into the African continent, and South Africa being used as the place to, the platform to go into the continent. So that he's going to expand on that, and he's going to talk about South Africa now being a premier destination for foreigners to come in and invest and build. Those are just sort of highlighting the last one major positive, the fact that the past year load shedding was largely non-existent. He's going to harp on that because that was obviously a big negative during his reign, over the last number of years. And he's going to talk about the fact that there's been stability in the electricity supply. The grid is a lot better. Eskom is in a much better situation. Although if you saw the press yesterday, I don't know if he's going to touch on it, that NERSA, through their mess up, is going to mean that us as consumers over the next not this year, we already saw the double-digit increase in our electricity bill already, but next year and the year after, instead of having a 5.5% type of increase, we're going to get close to 8.5%, 9% increases for 1 to 2 years because of NERSA's mess up with Eskom. I don't think he's going to touch on that. He's probably going to keep that aside. The big issues which he has to touch on negatively, and you highlighted it a bit earlier, water infrastructure, water issues, water crisis is potentially a bigger issue than what we had with load shedding. Water crisis and non-delivery of water leads to massive social instability. People do not understand what the potential impact is when people don't have water for a period of time. It leads to, already in Johannesburg, you see, Johannesburg is one of the worst places, and not because they had no rains. They had fantastic rains during November, December. They had fantastic rains. But because of the years of neglect on spending on the infrastructure, the corruption, the maladministration of largely, obviously, ANC-related type of governments or of municipalities and the like, but also there has been some DAs municipalities as well. But largely because of the lack of that, it's come to the situation where they're in a huge crisis. We talked about your water shedding happening in Overport and other areas. Joburg is rampant in terms of that. It's happening on a large scale. Joburg, they're talking about water. People are waiting hours just for water tankers to load. When they're loading water and there's inevitably, tankers are empty, there's still a line of people queuing. It's leading to fights between people because some people are taking more than they should and others have nothing. It leads to social instability and unrest. If this is not addressed urgently over the next couple of months, it's going to be a massive issue for South Africa. And you're seeing it starting to boil over. And I think he's talking about a war room again in Johannesburg and trying to. These war rooms, some of them are really a waste of time. The fact of the matter is there was a lack of. And guess what? While there's all this going on, the workers, some of them which are pathetic, decide to go on a strike. Joburg Water workers on an unprotected strike during a crisis period, taking advantage of poor situations. You cannot have that. These are when a crisis like this, whether you as a worker working in one of the vital service delivery and utility area need to ensure that you put first and foremost the people and the consumers on hand. Where there's repairs that need to be done or other issues, you focus on that, not on unpaid bonuses that you're worried about. You're still a well-paid employee, and that's the big issue. I don't know how much he's going to address that part. Because remember, this is a big year in terms of municipal elections. And just have a look at some of the by-elections that have been taking place over the last couple of months. The ANC is getting hammered. Look at the Western Cape. PA and DA are taking majority of the wins there. And it's a reflection of potentially what could happen in municipal elections this year. He's really aware of it. If you saw what he spoke about when they had their conference a couple of months ago, whatever it was, and the issue around municipal elections, the ANC has got a lot to sort out, and they could hemorrhage badly in these municipal elections because of these service delivery issues. And I think he has to address this water issue, and he will have to address the water issue during his SONA because it's a major crisis that we're facing. So I think, Yunus, there's a lot of positives. The economy is actually turning around much better than what we've seen in the last decade or so. There's positives in terms of major parts of the economy, but the two key areas that he needs to address on, firstly, water, and secondly, again, unemployment. Unemployment, while it has been some improvement, to put into perspective, from the pre-COVID levels to now, so COVID, we obviously lost a lot of jobs, but in the last 4 years, they've added on 1 million jobs. So we now go back to about 17 million people being employed formally in this country. But again, 17 million people in a population of 65 million, and where you have 50% unemployment amongst the youth, it's a big issue. And if you just look at the numbers that matriculated this past year, and how many have applied for universities, and those that are coming out of universities, there's not enough jobs to take in the people that are coming in. And that's excluding still those that are still in the system and unemployed. It's a big issue. And to do that, you need to do 2, 3, 4% type of GDP growth to bring in more and more people into the employment sector and employ them. And I think that's one of the key areas. And the problem, because is the corruption lack of excellence in terms of service delivery and inefficiencies has become so entrenched and institutionalized in our parastatals and in our municipalities and the like. It's a difficult process to turn around, but it can be done. You're slowly seeing some of the parastatals like ESCOM, like Transnet. There is a slow improvement, but some of the appointments that they've done in the past 2 years, you've seen some turnaround. The municipalities need to do this urgently. And one way we can do it is that if this is not going to happen, we as voters and people of the country and our cities and need to ensure when the elections come around, we must do the right thing. You know what? These by-elections, if you look at it, there have been changes on the back of just 100 and 200 votes. So don't say that your vote's not going to count. It's going to count in these municipal elections because there's going to be small margins in terms of people winning and losing. And it's going to be one of the most important municipal elections in our democratic era. And I think we must not underestimate that. So this is a way that we can try and drive some of the change. And the likes of the people in this room here, they're doing a hell of a lot in terms of trying to, through their ratepayers associations or the different forums, they're doing a lot. But we, and including myself out there, need to ensure that we also play our part by firstly voting and being a bit more active in terms of holding our councillors, our municipal managers, municipal appointees accountable. If they're not doing their job, we must get them out. That's the bottom line.
Thanks, Hassan. I think we need to wrap up. We've got about 15 minutes left, and now to bring in Sumaya. Sumaya, we've been hearing a lot about, creating jobs, especially for young people. Hassan has spoken about the stimulus in the economy. He's also spoken about the 50% unemployment. Now, the challenges that the youth are facing, they are the future leaders of the country. And Dr. Mohammed Hussein Suleiman is seated here. There's an expectation out there because they need employment. And when you do your programs on Fridays, where the youth are now are lost, because if they don't have jobs, they're going to start resorting to other things. Maulana Muhammad Vankia mentioned that they must get involved in community-driven projects. Like the Al-Ansar Foundation, we encourage the youth to join us in various humanitarian projects we're doing so that at least they kept busy. Now, from your perspective, interacting with the youth, and I know you can probably bring in Mohammed Hussein into the discussion, what are the expectations out there and how are we going to address these expectations? Because the president keeps on talking about responding to employment opportunities, keeping the youth occupied, want to use them because they're the future leaders. But there's a total neglect because what Shaista and Councillor Ismail are alluding to is the fact that these people are being employed, but the wrong people are being employed, not somebody who's got the enthusiasm to deliver. So what is the expectation out there? I'm addressing this to you, and perhaps Mohammed can come in when you all chat, and how we're going to really give a positive impact towards the youth of South Africa.
Well, if you think about it, a couple of weeks ago, or would you say probably a month or more, you had qualified educators sleeping outside the Department of Education in Pietermaritzburg because of unemployment rate. They have been searching for jobs and haven't got them. When last did you also see professional, qualified medical doctors unemployed and protesting and placarding outside?
After spending 7 years studying.
What about the amount of money spent? This is something which one would never have expected to happen in South Africa. But unfortunately, this is a reality. Right now, doing School Matters and even the Youth Frequency Show, producing and presenting it, and after interviewing many guests, you know what one worries? The parents and the learners who are looking beyond that gold. I'm going to spend so much of money studying. I'm going to end up studying something. What guarantee does it give me to have a career, a profession? End of the day, everyone defines success differently. With lots of the common man, success is having a fancy car, a big house, lots of money, dressing up. But success is how independent you are. End of the day, you must be able to pay your bills, sustain yourself, and not live off your parents. That is why civic society and people who are involved in the communities are telling the youth, get involved in trade, get involved to be an artisan. We're not saying that because we don't want you to go to university. But again, every single year, thousands, this is the harsh reality, are unemployed. They are not getting jobs. It's very easy now to go into university because not very long ago, we worked on points. But again, everything boils down. I think Brother Hassan can vouch me there for the economy. Everything's around money. Tertiary institutions want people to come and study. They're making everything to look attractive. But again, as one of our guests who always comes in, Samuel Kennedy says, it's a bottleneck. How many qualified people we're getting them? But again, bottleneck, how many of them are going into the working world? No one. That creates unemployment. Youth unemployment is absolutely ridiculous in South Africa. Youth, the ills of society, when you're looking at it, they don't have jobs. They're going into drugs. They're going into corruption, car hijacking, going back down to grassroots levels. All that boils down to youth employment. Because if you look at the stats, the youth is the major and one of the biggest populations. Have you ever seen medical doctors protesting unemployed? You are still in the process of studying. Is that a fear?
No, it is absolutely. And, it's a sad state of affairs. It's a deeply ingrained systemic issue where there's a lack of opportunity. For the last 3 to 5 years, there have been protests year after year at the Department of Health head office in Pietermaritzburg. We've got our medical professionals and our hospitals. Our state hospitals they are understaffed. I'm based at King Edward. I'm also based at the Wentworth Hospital. We are overworked. We are understaffed. So there is room for more professionals to come in. And when issues like these, they escalated to Department of Health, the response is the underfunding. They've got no funds to employ our doctors. So it is an issue that really we need to talk about more, but also we need to engage our political, our leaders for how can we redirect funding to prioritize our youth and our medical professionals.
You talk about funding, something off the topic. I was listening to doctors, medical doctors, having a conversation from local hospitals around the area that they do not have sanitation, water. They're using wet wipes. This is the harsh reality, that there are ladies who are about to give birth after Caesars. They don't have the equipment. There's no water. And there's nothing they can do. And as you mentioned, everything boils down to funding. So every single, Brother Yunus, every single aspect of government is suffering. It's by threads, as you mentioned, Sakrat. So it's quite sad. So again, unfortunately, we want change. So we as civic members, leaders in the community, we end up taking the ball in our court. In a way, it's excellent. It's good. Like Sister Shaista will be driving all over with a Mini. So if you see a Mini, if I can say this, it's her. And she works in the day. She's an educator. But again, are we making government, the municipality, no offense, councillors, lazy? Are they earning those salaries to do what? Because we are doing the work. And we still got to go to bed and report to duty to our paying jobs at the end of the day.
You mentioned that you and Sister Shaista, when you drive around, even with your glasses, you're hitting the potholes, etc.
No, she's not. She knows them.
I know where the potholes are.
Now, with or without the glasses, we're hitting these potholes all the time, and you're just hoping you don't buckle your rim or you have problems. I want to just conclude now and bring in Dr. Mohammed Hussain back quickly. I think you mentioned some very important points that, medical practitioners who are qualified are sort of seeking employment. Yet there's a huge shortage of medical practitioners in the various hospitals. And those budgets, they say, that are not there, are being maladministered, used elsewhere. Sumaya mentioned civic activism is very important. There's a serious problem in the country. The president is going to address some of the issues tomorrow, but he can't do it himself because those around him, and I want to let Abdul come in just now, are not delivering. Even some senior politicians, they're ducking and diving because all they're interested in is building up their asset base so that when they retire, they got hundreds of millions of rands in their bank account. And that is the agenda of most politicians, not all, most. So this scourge in South Africa has to change. Myself and Sam Kennedy, whenever we talk, if we talk about change in government, the minorities can't do much. So the challenge we have in News in Focus after Ramadan is to work out a solution to the problem. Shaisa did mention civic activism must take place, but these are the minority communities. Are they taking place in other communities? So your concluding remarks, Mohammed Hussein, how do you see the situation improving for the youth? Not necessarily only medical professionals, but youth in general, because we see the youth are car guards, they're battling all over the place, they're begging in street corners, they're involved in drug addiction. There's no hope for them because they're sleeping in the street corners and thousands of them are homeless. And some of them don't even know who their parents are. So how are we going to address that issue going forward, Dr. Mohammed?
I think that the president has to be true to himself and has to take the nation into confidence that the departments that are underperforming, he needs to replace all of those kinds of leaders, because you have a situation where those who want to appease him, those who want to sing the same song, are then put in those
positions.
Yeah. When we talk about the issue of the funding, look at the Tembisa hospital. 2 billion rands have been looted. With that kind of money, you can open an entirely new hospital that can bring in new healthcare professionals. So in part, you are dealing with the issue of the unemployment of healthcare professionals. So the administration, the management of funds that come into healthcare institutions in the Department of Health, that needs to be zoomed in. There are units that can focus, and I think that he needs to set up, a team within the DOH whereby funds that move across by virtue of tenders need to be monitored, need to be investigated, and I think a close eye on that. So in essence, we're dealing with the lack of funding that they claim is the problem for the understaffing. And there's a whole host of issues we can go on to talk about, the opening of more universities and of medical schools, which the Department of Higher Education is embarking on that project. There is some improvement, and of course there will be more to do. So I think we are living in interesting times. We look forward, we hope that it will be better, and we keep engaging our counterparts for a better future.
Thanks, Mohammed Hussein. We're running out of time. Abdul, I want to bring you in. You haven't spoken much, but I don't want to bring you in on Overport Ratepayers Association. I know you involved with civic activism at its highest level. You've been interacting with a lot of political parties. The concern that some of the civic organizations have raised that you've interacted with is poor service delivery, but also dealing with corruption and ensuring that come municipal elections, there is a change in leadership. And the strategy that you're looking at, and very important, is to ensure that there is an integrated political party in place where you're going to have the blacks, Indian, coloreds, and whites voting for an integrated political party who's got the real feeling towards change in South Africa, responding to what is being said today, improving service delivery, dealing with corruption, making sure that people get value for money for the contributions they make in the form of rates, in the form of tariff charges, etc. So you've got 5 minutes, Abdul, to give us your recommendation going forward, because the listeners in News in Focus are saying we're highlighting all the problems, but we're kind of not coming to a solution, a practical solution, after analyzing all the failures of the various political parties. Abdul.
Thanks, Yunus. I think the biggest challenge that we face today, in fact, when we hear about the youth and so forth and so on, we need to have a switch. There has to be major change. We need a Mamdani in South Africa. We need to find a Mamdani. Something that was not possible became possible, because you have this person that's sitting in New York that, we knew, a lot of people knew he could never win it, being a 34-year-old, and, takes New York City. So change has to come within the youth from all of us together. And the government has failed us. whether we can look at whichever way you can see it, right? They have failed, and the failures itself, they have not rectified anything of, showing these failures of 2 billion rands that were stolen from hospitals, billions of rands that are getting, wasted in infrastructure, service deliveries. If we look at reality, if we look at what's happening with regards to the municipalities here, there is nothing function. If you ask, councillor here that's sitting here with us, really, sometimes I don't know what these guys' jobs are all about, right? If I take example, Ward 31, we have a councillor, we have 3 PR councillors, and we have 10 ward committee members. All are paid by government. What do? Dololo. The word dololo I'm using because I don't know what they do. Really, to be honest with you, because we don't find them on the ground. And change has to happen in the sense that, if I had to stand up for councillor, I think I'll make it, right? But it's not something that I'm looking to, run into. Activism needs to come from people. People need to find the right candidates. And government, the right candidate can go into council and make a noise and make a change, right? Unfortunately, I wish the ACC would have been more powerful. And I can understand, the time when you were, sitting at the Tikwini SACOOR, you were the Mamdani of, KZN, because everybody relied on you. I actually voted for you guys, right? By the way,
thank you very much.
Right, but I'm saying you only managed to get 2,000 seats, which was in this ward. Actually, 2,000 votes, not seats. Sorry,
7,000.
There's 2,000 votes into here, Ward 31, and I think this out of disappointment, where people didn't stand for organization like themselves that was on the forefront helping people. The guys become the moral falls down. They say, what, we guys been working for people, our moral fell down. Now they're sitting with a single party, sitting in council. What can you do? So change must happen. And how it's going to happen is that, as you said, that we need to find this organization that we can back together, where everybody is sitting in the same seat. And we have to go back to the original roots where, minorities have representation in government. Because really speaking, when you look at government, who's there? We don't find us there. We guys are not there. I resigned from the ANC. And the reason I resigned from the ANC, I can tell you now, openly. I resigned because I mentioned to the ANC, you do not represent minorities. As far as the Indians, coloreds, and whites, we are no longer in the ANC. You're still gatekeeping. You still got the same old guard there. It's the same story. Nothing's changing. So how are we going to fix up this municipality? Like yourself, Yunus, when you were in municipalities, I can tell you now, not because I'm being racist or anything, there are more Indians in the municipality of Durban than ever that we saw before, than now. Now when you go there, you find the person there, you're standing in the queue. In fact, you know what? We've been there. And the guys are sitting and playing with their phones while the queues are sitting and nothing's happening. Service delivery is gone. It's a curse to even walk into these places. So how are we going to fix these things? People that are out there must decide how you're going to vote for who. And I say vote for people in the sense that who is helping people, who's standing on the forefront. If we as ratepayers associations and activists are there doing the work, really, it's like, this is crazy for us to be involved into this system. It should be government taking, control. I actually gave a call to the mayor myself in person, when we had this issue of the water crisis. And he said he's going to have a meeting with us, which is, most probably I'm going to hope for that meeting to come up. And he wants to investigate with all the councils. And I did mention to him how many councils we have in this ward. He said he's going to call up a meeting and have a discussion to see where the failed and how it happened. But is it the right thing? Is it going to fix us? Right now, the municipality is actually looking for money. They need 2 billion rents. They're trying to find money to pay salaries. Why is it the issue that we're facing right now regarding the power outages? Let me tell you what the reason is. There's a few things that happen major. One, all the people that you see, the subcontractors, they have not been paid. There's no money. That's why you've been sitting 4 years, Shaista. We've been sitting, 4 days. 4 days we've been sitting of no power because these contractors have not been paid. So how are they going to get the job done? Right? The second one that we see, if you look at Ward 31 here with us in Overport, the substation that we have, which is in corner of West Road and Crescent Street, that power system is switched off. It's being on revamping. In fact, they're revamping the system for what the reason is. There were some transformers that were actually not in good state. Now they're trying to fix it up. They're actually, taking power from elsewhere and coming here. And this is why you have the strain on the system. We've got the answers. We know what's going on. But they got the answers better than us. Why they're not carrying out the work that should be done, right, in the community? I mean, this morning, this a while ago, I mean, there's other areas like Westville don't have power for 3 days. So when are we going to change this thing?
So I think we're running out of time, Abdul, and this debate will continue. But I want to conclude, and I want to simplify our discussion, Councillor Ismail, you're a councillor in the area. And I want to simplify it on the basis that if you play a simple game of soccer or cricket, and you've got 11 players.
I play golf.
You play golf. Maybe it's an individual sport. But when you play soccer or cricket, and the Man U supporters will tell us a few years ago that if 3 or 4 players are playing and the rest of the guys are passengers, the side is going to lose. The same applies in all the municipalities and government departments. There are very few people working. Even when you go into the hospitals, even private hospitals, there's a few dedicated workers, and that comes from a particular race group. We don't want to be racist, yeah? But enough is enough. You cannot allow passengers to prevail in government.
Absolutely.
And these passengers, they're very good in ensuring that they get backhands, they get themselves involved in corruption, they build up millions of rands for doing nothing. So you got 3 minutes, Councillor Ismail. What is your final comments?
Final comment is I want to see that the people start making the right choices when it comes to voting in the 2026 local government elections. Like my brother Abdul, they picked on me. But when we're outside of the studios, he's going to see what I'm going to do to him. So let's just leave it at that.
We don't want to tell him you're a security man. So you're
it's a difficult question to answer, because sometimes what's apparent is not what you expect. Because you can have 100,000 people out there will say, no, we'll vote for you. But out of that 100,000 people, only maybe 10,000 people will vote for you. So where the changes are going to come from, it's a very, very difficult answer. And we tried as the ACC, and in council itself, you get opportunities like passing motions, talking about Section 27 questions which we present, and we have answers to personal questions, and we've tackled water loss issues, we've tackled wastages, we've tackled safety and security, we've tackled all of that, and I've got the evidence to show it. I mean, if Abdul wants to see and what I've done as a councillor, he's welcome to come and check my files. I have no problem with that. We've done the work with that. But Mr. Host, if I may ask you, might I just digress a little bit? I want to talk about human rights, and we're coming to Ramadan, and I just want to get away from service delivery. Maulana Venka spoke earlier about muazzins and how they're being treated and how they were being treated. I'm making an appeal here to all our musallis and going to do not abuse the muazzins during Ramadan, especially when it comes to iftar. I tell you from talking from personal experience that when I was on a masjid committee back in Johannesburg, I stopped a lot of things, because before I came onto the committee, the muazzin was cleaning the courtyard up until the time of Isha. He didn't go and eat. And I stopped and I protested. And the people who were bringing and hosting the chow for iftar and everything else, when I stopped, they came to me, they said, Brother Muhammad, can we still do this? I said, you do it on condition my muazzins don't do your dirty work. You bring your own cleaners and you do it. And I put up a notice in the masjid. A guy who goes in gush comes to me and he texts me, says, what's this notice for? You're destroying the atmosphere of iftar. I said, no. Iftar continues the way it is. You guys sit inside the masjid, you make a mess, you do all of these things, and my muazzins must clean. Doesn't work like that. He says, oh yeah, well, you're talking nonsense. They glorified cleaners. It was disgusting what he said. So I protected them. So my appeal, please. Sorry, I had to bring this up.
Treat your muazzins with dignity.
With dignity.
Because in the eyes of Allah, Maulana Venka said they will be standing tall.
And that brought up this. I had to mention this.
No, most certainly. Very important. Very important. And I think our masjid trustees must take cognizance of that, because these muazzins work hard. They're underpaid. We must take care of them.
Yeah.
Give them donations as far as possible, and
Treat them with
generally
dignity.
humanitarian. Shaista, I want to bring you in. We got a minute left. Your closing comments.
I just hope all this water is sorted out before Ramadan starts. It's our overport community is a hell of a lot of Muslims stay here, and Seri time they're not going to have water. We continuously emailing and pleading to please change the times. Even if you have to shed that water, which you're not telling us is shedding, can you just shed it at another time, because this is now Seri time. So inshallah, that
Shaista, you got 7 days to make sure that is sorted out.
Make dua.
Sumaya,
I'm trying.
Your closing comments.
Well,
I know you spoke a lot in a couple of weeks ago. I'm giving you a break today. Your closing comments.
Well, to all our valued listeners, Jazakallah for tuning in to this evening. Very long. Engage with us on many issues that affects our communities, and we need your support, and also your voice matters right now to everyone who's listening at home to make a difference.
Dr. Muhammad Hussein Sulaiman.
Yeah.
For 2 minutes, just give us some Ramzan tips from a medical angle.
In terms of our health, that is something we need to prioritize. You are in total control of your health and your well-being. Those of the elderly, those with comorbidities, especially hypertension, especially diabetes, you need to be going for your regular checks. We see this end on end at the hospital. People default their appointments, and it reflects in the blood results. It reflects on the patient clinically. If you're a diabetic and if you've got symptoms of tremors, you're feeling dizzy, and you have palpitations, you need to go into your clinic. And if you're fasting, you're a diabetic, and if you're a high-risk patient, your HbA1c is uncontrolled, you have chronic kidney disease, you have target organ damage, most likely you are exempted from fasting. But please speak to your healthcare provider. And I think for the youth, be focused, stay. You need to have a goal in life. We see it at hospital, people on the streets, and they resort to drugs. They abuse drugs, and they come in with these whole range of the psychotic issues that we see. They hallucinate, and they have delusions, all coming from substance abuse. So all of these starts at the schooling level, and we need to conscientize our youth to stay focused in that. Prioritize your education. Your education is what you work for. What you work for, nobody can take away from you. That is your future. Your future is in your hands. Stay positive. Seek advice from your elders, from your mentors. And, ultimately, you need to thrive for you and your family.
Jazakallah, Dr. Muhammad Sulaiman. I was questioned before I set up this program for this evening, because some of our co-presenters mentioned that, are you going to manage 7 guests for this evening for 1.5 hours? And I think we achieved that objective. I want to thank Sheikh Salman Fredericks. He's an alim attorney from Uqsa that did a presentation on the state of the SA Ummah address, and he raised some pertinent points. Maulana Muhammad Vankia, who spoke quite openly about the development of Salah facilities and the performance of Salah, which is one of the prerequisites in Islam. The first thing to be reckoned in the cover would be our Salah. Hassan Mutala, our asset manager, our chartered accountant, who was regularly in the studio, some pertinent advices. Abdul Balodia, chairman of ORA, president of United for Palestine. Shaista Ghafoor, a community activist, was doing exceptional work in the various wards, not only Ward 31. I know in other wards she's also assisting. Councillor Ismail, Muhammad Ismail, is from the Secretary General of Active Citizens Coalition. He's made some very pertinent points. He mentioned, we councillors can do so much, but the scourge in municipalities is a major challenge, and we need to sort that out. Dr. Muhammad Sulaiman, medical intern, Department of Health, he's also involved in civic activism, involved in United for Palestine. And Sumaya Khan, the co-host for this evening. We ran out of time. This is the last program before Ramadan. And if there's an urgent need to do a program in the Mubarak month of Ramadan, we certainly will host that program. But inshallah, we'll continue with some very important discussions leading to municipal elections post-Ramadan. Salams, I must say that Muhammad Ismail, I'm just reading a couple of messages. Muhammad Ismail, good work in our community. Sister Shaisa Ghafoor, done good work in our community. Well done to both of them. There's various other messages come through. Faiz says that, Brother SACOOR, your guest says the government has failed us. Does this imply the ANC? If so, are we supposed to vote for the Zionist finance racist DA? I would love to know. Obviously, again, another question. Your question says the government has failed us. Does this imply that ANC? There's another query that came through. According to the municipal bill property raise valuation for Tikmani, will there be inspection till 31st March? Objections must be lodged ASAP. Are you aware of this? Now, all these subjects we will be covering after Ramadan. We're going to have special programs leading up to municipal elections to cover a host of issues, because a lot of important information was brought to our attention this evening, and we have a lot of time before the next election, and we're gonna deal with all these issues going forward. And I'm going to highlight a lot of topical issues which we're going to get guests to talk about. But today we just spoke broadly about various issues, and I think the message is simple and clear. And I think a very important point that Councillor Ismail mentioned, we have to make sure that during this Mubarak month of Ramadan, we ensure that the purpose of fasting is for us to understand the need for dealing with poverty in this country, to deal with the crisis of a humanitarian need, to deal with hunger management. And the purpose of us fasting is to develop the taqwa, but also to understand that there are people out there that don't have enough food to put on the table, and we have to take care. And during iftar time, we cannot shove our black Muslims and muazzins in one corner, and the haves must have the best of the iftar. Let's share our iftar. Let's take care of those that cannot afford it. And this is the essence of Ramadan. We must create this humanitarian feeling towards our communities. So I want to take this opportunity of once again wishing our Muslim community all the best in the Mubarak month of Ramadan. Depending on the sighting of the moon, Ramadan will commence either on Wednesday or Thursday, and whichever day it commences, the Al Ansar Foundation will be on the ground helping people during this Mubarak month of Ramadan with hamper distribution, food distribution, halim distribution. Posters will come out, and inshallah, we want the community to join us in ensuring that our community is fed during this Mubarak month of Ramadan, not only the Muslims, but also those that are facing hunger throughout our neighborhood, including our informal settlements. I want to close and thank our technician, Brother Zakaria Omar, this evening for a wonderful job. And inshallah, going forward, my final advice is that let's obey the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as shown to us by Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. And who was Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam? He was an exceptional leader that had all the credentials of ensuring that humanity is served at the highest level. And if we can emulate that sunnah, inshallah, we will be successful. Until our next program, which is going to be after Ramadan, I wish people everything of the best for the Mubarak month of Ramadan. Do remember us in your du'as. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.